Welcome to Retirementals, a podcast that dives headfirst into the issues facing the financial sector at the intersection of investment, technology and financial advice. Hosted by Abraham Okusanya, you can expect raw honesty, critical analysis and energetic interviews. Here is your host, Abraham Okusanya.
Hello and welcome to Retirementals. I am Abraham Okusanya and it's great to have you here today. I hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far. I've got a fantastic guest lined up for today. Before we do that, before we dive right in, can I just say thank you for the reviews and the ratings that that we've received so far on the podcast. If you haven't reviewed the podcast so far, would very much like for you to do that. The latest review we've received, the first one actually, is from Babbage Fox, who said, "A great balanced discussion. I will look forward to the next episode. Paul Lewis does make me smile." A very honest view, he said. And so if you like to leave a podcast, if you like to leave a review, please do so on Apple Podcast or wherever all good podcasts are sold. Okay, moving on to today's podcast. I'm very excited by my guest today. Tim Horrocks is the founder and managing director of RockWealth, which is a financial planning firm based in Gloucestershire, I think, Cheltenham. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Abraham.
Tim, it's great to have you on the show. I am a big fan of your work and the firm. Tell us a little bit about the firm as it exists today, the people, your clients and what you do.
Sure. So based in Cheltenham, as I said, Abraham, there are three financial planners based in the business here in Cheltenham with support around us. More recently as well, we've got some other RockWealth affiliate offices opening around the UK. So we also have a RockWealth office in Norwich, Leamington Spa, Brighton this month, and Cardiff and Cheshire within the next 2 months as well. So financial planners in all of those offices. That will take us to 7 or 8 planners by the beginning of the new tax year.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're basically doubling up the size of the firm, at least from the point of view of the number of planners that you have. Tell us a little bit more about where you are today in terms of clients. What's a typical client of the firm in terms of is there a niche that you serve, revenue, fees? What does that look like today?
So typical client, probably an average of at least 750,000 of liquid assets that we help them look after. Most clients are pre or shortly post-retirement. So they're either thinking about retiring kind of 50 onwards, or they're shortly after retirement. So maybe kind of between the ages of 60, 75. So yeah, wealth accumulated, and we're really trying to help them see, can they retire? Have they got enough? Is it going to be sustainable? How can we encourage them, coach them to spend that money? We often say to our clients, if you die rich, we've done a terrible disservice. So we're trying to help our clients utilize their money, and that kind of sweet spot is about 750 plus. I think the more clients have, the better value we are because of our charging structure. So certainly once you get north of $500,000, I think we're fantastic value compared to the marketplace. I'd still say we're really good value above 250. It's just the more you've got on a fixed fee structure, the less it costs you proportionally. So we just start becoming better and better value, really.
That's fascinating. We'll dive right into that, the fee structure, the flat fee structure, and a little bit more. But for now, let's give us your backstory. What was it for you like growing up, and how did you get into the financial planning profession?
So nothing too noteworthy. My growing up, really kind of middle England. Growing up in a shire in England isn't really that exciting. There's not that much going on. So yeah, went to local primary school, local comprehensive senior school, sixth form, went to university where I studied economics, which I did at A level as well. So that was just genuine interest. I've always been interested in politics and economics and geopolitical things, what's going on in the world, what's gone on in the world in the past. So I find that interesting. And I suppose financial planning or financial advice, IFAs, as it kind of was back then, became of interest to me. So my older brother, Matt, works in the firm now as well. He's a partner here in Cheltenham. But he's 4 years my senior, and he kind of got me interested in it, I suppose. He kind of went to a career in finance first. He wasn't a financial advisor, but he worked as a business development manager and started getting into that world. I thought that actually sounds really interesting. And also, while I was studying economics, we did modules on investments, and I remember one of the lecturers at the time actually saying about, just bought the stock market and hey, you've made a fantastic return, you don't need to do too much beyond that. And it's a bit of a mixture between actually not just being sat at a desk all day speaking to people. It sounded interesting, and the more I got into that world, the more I enjoyed it. It probably just didn't start really loving what I did until we actually became financial planners, which isn't that long ago, really. Probably wouldn't say I was really a financial planner until maybe 5-6 years ago, because it didn't really used to exist, did it? I worked for banks. That was kind of my first foray really into financial advice. I worked for a couple of different banks, and it was all around products. It was all around products. It was, how can you make the product fit the client, really, rather than anything else. And I think that continued for quite a long time.
So you worked in bank assurance for a number of years. That sort of gave you your start in the profession, and then you set up RockWealth. Was that the job?
Not straight to that, actually. Not straight to that. So 2008, I was 28 years old at the time, and I got approached and tempted by the machine that is St James's Place, and I thought that looks good.
Right! Wow! Wow!
So I was actually a partner at St James's Place for 3 years, through to 2011. RDR was now on the horizon. I saw that as a real challenge for a business structure like St James's Place. I thought that can't work. I can't work in that structure. Those fees are just not sustainable in the RDR world. So made the decision that time. Need to get out of that kind of structure, need to be independent, need to be more flexible in fees. I started hearing more about fixed fees and other alternatives. So decided to make a change at that point, and it was a big decision, really. I built up a client bank over 3 years, and as you and many of your listeners would probably appreciate, you can't really just take your clients from St James's Place and move them the next day, because all the kind of the complexity of exit penalties, etc. So it was kind of leaving my first 3 years work behind and sort of starting again. So I worked as a contractor in a way, sort of independent consultant with a couple of local IFA firms. And after that experience, kind of my St James's Place experience, I thought, you know what, I need to do my own thing. I need to get directly authorised, set up a firm where I'm more control of the process, the rules, how it works, fee structure, investment proposition, being charge my own destiny, really. And that was 2013. I made that decision. August 2013, RockWealth Incorporated, and we had our FCA permissions by February 2014. So we're just shy of our 7th birthday as an incorporated entity. So still a child, we're still young.
Wow, incredible! Congratulations. And I want to dive into the firm, your philosophy and fee structure, but I can't let this go. Don't you think today, though, looking back, that you're wrong about SJP in the sense that they still continue to go from strength to strength? As a matter of fact, I think the number of clients and assets must have more than doubled since you left.
Yeah, it just goes to show that speculating is a pointless task. Yeah, I mean, I was right that they would struggle with RDR rules, and they don't really operate in the same space of rules that the rest of the industry does. So I think that I was correct.
Yeah, no, there's an exemption made for them. I don't know, something of that nature. But
yeah, but also, I took on a lot of the good things. What they're actually very, very good at, which is marketing, proposition, training. That you've got to always look at. Successful firms are successful for reasons, and you've got to pick out the good things. So I've tried to incorporate a lot of those good things into RockWealth, kind of brand quality of what you do.
RockWealth came to my on my radar a few years ago. It must be 5 years ago or so now, and uh, I think it came about because you guys were a staunch advocate of evidence investing, and you were really making a lot of noise about this. So tell us, what is that? What is evidence-based investing, and why is this a core part of your proposition as a firm?
So what is evidence-based investing? So normally at this point, I'll send Abraham an email to say, can you can you write me a piece on this best way to describe evidence-based investing? Yeah, so my own words of doing that, I would say it's just looking at evidence. You know, I'm a believer in science. You know, you can back certain things up and some things you can't. And evidence-based investing is just, well, what can be tested as being true. You know, we've had the whole, you know, Trump noise over the last 4 years, and lots of kind of, you know, conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff going on. And that's kind of, you know, the political side of active fund managers, a load of noise and shouting and just stirring up opinions to try and get what you're trying to get to. Whereas I think sort of the evidence-based world is just going back to science, rational thoughts, enlightenment, if you like. It's just more predictable, reliable, research-based proposition, and it helps us achieve our primary goal, which is with financial planners. We're trying to plan for something in the long-term future. You want to try and get rid of speculation as much as you can, or reduce the variables. And you know, individual fund manager performance is just such an unknown quantity. It's just not. It's not good for a client to go near it.
So you guys did a lot of work promoting this through, you worked with Robin Powell and all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, so one of the partners here, Mark Vale, joined. He's been here 5 years now, so really kind of early in the setup of RockWealth. And Mark came with that kind of full belief in evidence-based investing. And it's something I'd looked at the past. I'd built passive models on, you know, some of the old platforms back in the day as kind of a nice low-cost alternative. But what I always appreciated was that I'm not an investment manager. I should not be constructing investment portfolios. It shouldn't be something I should be doing. And I looked around at the time. There were no sort of DFM outfits out there that would go and do that kind of passive construction for you. It just didn't really exist. So that kind of went by the wayside a bit because it was just easier making use of, you know, model portfolio services and other DFMs, just allocating that responsibility and concentrating on the advice. But Mark kind of came with a solution, and we agreed at the time. And sort of the RockWealth ethos is that whatever you're going to do, you've got to do as a collective. You've got to have joint beliefs, collective beliefs. It can't be, you know, go to someone, you get a completely different bit of advice from seeing someone else. It's got to be that same path. So we accepted, yeah, that's the route we need to go down as a firm. But then it was, well, how do I educate my clients? And this is what we should be doing. And we always say, you know, the great thing about evidence-based investing is there's so much research and there's tons of literature out there to prove your points. But to try and point a client in a succinct way of proving that point is actually a challenge. So one of the best ways that I found to communicate that, and one of the best resources I kind of learned myself to kind of have that conversation with clients is to watch Mark Hebner's documentary, 12-Step Recovery Process for an Active Investor.
Yes,
I can't remember the year that was produced, but it was by
a
Robin.
long time ago. Yeah,
long time ago. Yeah, Robin sort of fronted it. It was his production company, Regis Media, produced it. And our first point was, do you know what? There's no UK version. Maybe these guys would be up for that. Let's go via Robin. We'll ask Mark Hebner, do you mind? Can we anglicize this and make it UK, make a UK version?
Yeah, they don't speak English in America, do they? Sorry, Carrie.
It's just different kind of thing. So it was great, but it was, you know, there are different ways of communicating the same message, aren't there? And that wasn't going to be a possibility. So we thought, let's do our own. Let's do something. So we've got a really clear way of communicating to current clients why they should invest in an evidence-based manner, and also future clients. You know, let's make it part of our education process that before they onboard, they watch this, they understand it. If they disagree, go somewhere else. it's a nice kind of filtering process, but also then the fact that they've then been educated, not by us, by independent experts, academics, who have got no self-interest in communicating this message. They're just doing it because that's the truth.
So you were using this content, this video, which went quite, I'll use the word viral actually, as a way to educate your clients about what evidence-based investing is all about, but also as a filter to people who don't subscribe. I mean, people might say, well, why enforce your own philosophy or ideas on investment on clients? Why don't you, even before they've come to you, right? Why don't you, why don't they come to you and they tell you what they want, and you sort it out, you get it for them?
Yeah, you don't have an argument with a client every year on whether the tooth fairy exists or not. It's not it's not a conversation we want to be spending our time on. Is the investment proposition. We want to be talking about the plan, the goals, stuff we can influence, making use of tax exemptions, allowances, doing that stuff, not talking about what's the best performing fund last year and should I buy Neil Woodford, or that's not a conversation we want to waste our time doing, really. So let's filter at outset. Clients will hopefully understand that and realize that why we're trying to do it, which is their own interest. It's not for us, it's for them. So it also sets up that relationship really well. You're kind of going in as being a breath of fresh air, which is good. I mean, it's crazy that telling people the truth in financial services is disruptive, but it is. That makes a big difference. You start off on a really good footing, that you build that trust.
I know that you guys use Betafolio, our firm, to help out with the portfolio management of things. Someone might say, well, why don't you just do this yourself? Clients are coming to you, to help them with this.
Yeah, it's the same way that I wouldn't write my own will, or landscape my own garden. The garden would look a mess, and I'll probably end up leaving my money to you or something, Abraham. I'd mess it up. You've got to stick at being an expert at what you're experts at, and I've always firmly believed in outsourcing. You can't employ all the best people in the world to do that work for you. So don't try, really, unless you're kind of stupidly big scale, and you could have a chance of doing that. I'd rather employ people on a consultancy basis, like you, sort of through Betafolio. We outsource compliance supports, we outsource paraplanning, outsource sort of virtual PA services. So if no one can pick up the phone in the office, it's going to be answered. Outsourcing kind of the marketing, the SEO, the media production. I'm a financial planner. I don't do any of those jobs. So outsource to experts. It's time saving. It's better outcome for the clients. And also the bit they appreciate is the time they spend in front of you. If I'm going off doing, writing blogs or trying to do fund research, it's just a waste of my time in the client's eyes, really.
It's incredible. You've built a fantastic firm basically by outsourcing all the non-core activity, including the media, marketing, clients, education, all that stuff. That's incredible. Now, I know that you make a big noise, I think, about this idea of being flat fee. Why? What's wrong with the AUM fee approach to charging clients for advice?
And so it generates a conflict of interest. You just can't escape from the fact that is a conflict of interest. If I get paid more because you invest more, it's a conflict. You can have an argument saying, "Oh, I get paid more because you make more money." But our job, and I said this earlier on in this conversation, if clients die rich, we've done a terrible job. So how do you kind of reconcile one with the other? Our job should be to help our clients, or encourage our clients to spend their money. And of course, you've got an accumulation phase. You need to be encouraging them to save money, build it up for that downwards journey, spending the money. But you can't get to the point where you've accumulated so much wealth that's going to last them, and then say, "Oh, don't spend that much, don't spend that much, don't spend that much," because it's affecting your own base level of income. fee structures is challenge. It's hard to put that kind of structure in place. I don't think we've nailed it. I don't think it's perfect. But what we've always tried to do is try to make it perfect, and I think we'll continue to try to do that. But it is complex, because you have got to give some appreciation of the size of the client, the complexity of the client situation, the time you're going to spend with them, and a lot of the time, all three of those things increase as the client's got more money. But it shouldn't purely be based on how much they've got. A £2 million client shouldn't be paying, a 20% of £10 million client. There does become a line in the sand where it is just profiteering.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Nikki Heaton-Jones is the Managing Director and the Chief Investment Officer at Betafolio, the high-tech, low-cost, discretionary model portfolio manager. Hi, Nikki. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Betafolio.
Sure, it would be my pleasure. So I've been working with you and the guys at Betafolio for just over a year and a half now, so almost right from the very beginning. And my role now, as you've alluded to with the CIO hat and the MD hat, is to really make sure that our investment process runs smoothly. It's key for me to make sure that our strategies reflect our core beliefs. And as a turnkey asset management service, to make sure that advisors are supported with everything they need for their own investment proposition. So with the ultimate goal of making sure their end clients get a good deal. I'm really lucky. It's a really varied role, because we aim to be a one-stop shop for advisors. I get to work on all the elements of the investment proposition, and every advisor we work with is different, and we don't provide a cookie cutter service. So we get to work with all those different firms and work in a different way with each of our clients as well.
Nikki, thank you very much. Tell us a little bit more about how you work out the fees. So is there a flaw in terms of the base retainer? So a client walks in today, I don't know, with whatever the size of their portfolio is. How do you work out what they're supposed to be paying?
So our charging structure used to be we'd charge 75 basis points up to $1 million, 35 basis points afterwards. So 0.75 has always been a bit of an anchor. So we think our minimum size of a client would be £250,000 for us really to be kind of worthwhile working. So that's kind of our floor. 0.75 for that, 1,850 per year. That's kind of our floor. And we've had a bit of we always used to have, I say a cap, largely held true, a cap of £10,000. That'd be kind of, you'd sit between those numbers. And I'd say it was largely capped because some clients are just even more complicated than that 10,000 cap. There might be some business relief things going in and trust things going in, family investment company structures. You can build a whole load of complexity on top for really affluent clients. But most of our clients up to few £1 million, 10,000 would cover it. So we used to cap at 10,000, floor at 1875, and then it'd be a percentage in between those numbers. Whereas now we're kind of breaking it into almost 3 different profiles. So people in an accumulation phase, it's less complicated. They shouldn't really be paying more than sort of circa 5,000 a year, because it's relatively simple. I mean, you might be looking at some clients to spend more time with because they've got to do some carry forward calculations, and there's a few different pension plans. You've got to have some allowance for charging a little bit more. But the guts of really the complex ones are in decumulation phase. So we say, well, decumulation clients, we've got a different charging structure. Maybe the kind of the floor there is more like 3,000 a year, because they need to have a decent chunk of wealth to be in a decumulation strategy anyway. So you want those clients to have at least 300, 400, 500,000 to be going into decumulation drawdown strategies. So we've got a floor there of about 3,000 up to about 7.5. And then we just have a different category of charging structure for what we describe as high net worth or complex clients. So typically that's clients with $1 million plus, or just more complex things going on. And that's when we start looking at about £7,500 to £10,000 as a typical fee. But allowance there to some clients have just got a lot more going on, so it could be more. But I think the most important thing, it's not necessarily what the fixed fee is. It's the fact that as it's not a percentage, it isn't linked to investment growth. And that's when you start having that separation. If we start at the same point and you've got 0.75, one as a percentage or 0.75 as monetary, they're going to separate over time because your portfolio is going to make them inflation plus, isn't it? It's going to be plus something. If it's really kind of high equity, it's going to be maybe plus 3, 4. If it's really low, it might be plus a half or 1. But those two numbers are going to separate over time. So compound over 20 years, you're just far better off having a fixed monetary amount.
And Tim, I don't actually disagree with this approach. As you know, with Betafolio, we have a flat fee proposition, which is actually charged to the firm, as opposed to the client. But I sometimes wonder if we are missing a trick here. Are you being basically holier than thou, in the sense that the AUM model is an incredibly profitable model, especially in the asset management space. As you said to yourself, with the flat fee structure, I assume that you would have to, do some sort of inflation linking. So you have to increase the fee in line with inflation. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it goes up in line with inflation, which is reasonable and fair. But who doesn't want above inflation growth in their revenue? If as a business person, don't you think? Well, actually, I charge based on assets, and we know that the capital market is going to grow faster than inflation in the long run. Who wouldn't want that? It seems crazy to me that someone wouldn't want that as a business model.
Yeah, I mean, as a business owner, that makes far more sense, doesn't it? But if you're a fiduciary firm, then it's clients' interest first, and we know that clients will be better off on a fixed fee model, even where you inflation link it. And what we'd say is that it's annually reviewable rather than just a baseline of inflation linkage in there. You could say, well, actually, we're going to decrease it next year because you have spent a big chunk of your money and it's no longer kind of morally acceptable to be charging you that level of fixed fee, because it would now be, I don't know, 1.25% of your wealth, and that's just too much. So you've got to kind of put some caps and collars in place, and we kind of have a moral limit that it couldn't be more than 1%. It just couldn't be more than 1%. So that's kind of how we manage that. But yeah, you just got to look at it on an annual basis with clients, which you're doing anyway with everything else. Can we save fees on platforms, investment funds? And you're a big part of the cost as a financial planner. And we know that we add loads of value. Most of the research says we add more than 3% a year, but you still got to show your worth to a client every year and show that, you're reviewing these things. You can't just think that, the price now is good forever.
It's incredible, actually, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I wish the general public know a lot more about this. I had Paul Lewis on the first episode of the show, and Paul was making the point about, I don't agree with him, about the percentage-based fee being, as he calls it, some sort of wealth tax, and just listening to you. And the steps that you've gone to negate, this thing about salience of the AUM fees, it kind of goes in line with inflation. With the capital market. Clients often don't question it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think about the step that you've gone through to negate that, and I think it's admirable. So kudos to you, but you're not just keeping this to yourselves, are you? I know. Tell us a little bit. You talked earlier about the the affiliate branches and these other planning firms that you're bringing, or planners that you're bringing on board with your approach. Where's that coming from?
It's trying to be that sort of community of like-minded individuals and appreciation. You can do a lot more through scale and brand. I mentioned at the outset, something like St James's Place do really well is that clients think they're dealing with a national firm, but of course they're not. There's lots of individual firms. There's Dave in his shed, or there's Steve who's actually got a nice office in a city centre somewhere. They're all really different businesses, but they operate under the same kind of umbrella. And I think, well, there's lots of firms try to copy them and do the same as them and set up IFA networks and doing the same thing, DFM, active fund management. Why copy something that's already been done? Someone else has cracked that. It's too late. You can't invent the wheel after it's been invented. So it's trying to look at, well, what isn't there? We are an independent, evidence-based, low-cost, fixed-fee financial planning firm. Are there many of us out there? There are a few. There are more and more, aren't there? But there's certainly no network of like-minded firms where you all kind of get those economies of scale, share that knowledge, unless it's in a kind of a looser format. Maybe it's the guys who go to your conferences, etc., kind of think similarly, but they are disparate companies, different networks. Some are directly authorized. They're all different. You think, well, if you get together more and you spend that common resource then on the marketing, the non-financial sitting in front of clients bit, you can pool that resource and just get better and better at doing it, produce more content for clients, invest more money on your SEO work, so you're generating more clients, get the knowledge out there to general public, because otherwise we're competing with banks and national IFA firms and active fund managers. You can do that kind of advertising. The client is largely unaware of what evidence-based investing is. They're largely unaware of why you really should avoid active management the vast majority of the time, unless you're a very lucky individual. So how do we communicate that message? And as individual small firms, that's difficult. It's really difficult. But as a kind of a national alliance of like-minded firms, you can start chipping away. You can start chipping away at that.
That's very so. In essence, you are taking SJP's marketing model of national brand, national awareness, and client education, and a network of like-minded firms. I've seen this done in the US, as you know. The BAM Alliance has done this very successfully.
Yeah.
No, I think it's incredible. So the firms, are they appointed representative of RockWealth? Are they directly authorized? How are they set up, these affiliate firms?
Yeah, so pointing to representatives of RockWealth and kind of the marketing, kind of all the other service kind of side of things is through evidence-based advisors, which we've set up to kind of ultimately become the network, really. So
right.
RockWealth ourselves here in Cheltenham would kind of sit under that as an AR then, because then you start centralizing expertise. Now you start centralizing compliance, marketing, finance, all that kind of just running a business stuff can be centralized and have one full-time person or a team of full-time people who just do that, rather than again having to take care of it locally. And I'd say as well, when sort of this idea, it's probably more taken from people like Joe Duran, United Capital, it's the BAM Alliance. That's the kind of model we're basing it on. That's you look at those as success stories and think, there's not really an equivalent.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's incredible. No, I'm watching that and see how it evolves. I definitely believe that this space needs to be shaken up. You're right. In the UK today, there isn't a nationally recognized brand of evidence-based financial planners. So it looks like you guys are onto something special.
And it's also it's owner-run businesses. I believe in owner-run businesses, everyone having a stake in it, and it's allowing everyone to have their own business and have that control of their destiny and making those kind of entrepreneurial returns. But you just share common branding.
Incredible. So let's talk about you then. You are obviously quite young still.
Thank you, Abraham.
But surely, as someone who help people plan their retirement and their exit strategy, surely you have one yourself. Tell us about it.
Yes, you say not that young. I'm not sure whether I appear young. But no, I'm 41. I've got 3 children.
41 is incredibly young in this profession.
You're in your 30s, aren't you, Abraham? You're in your 30s.
Yeah, about just a millennium come to.
So 3 children. My youngest is 2. So but I'd say that's another 20 years of work. As that's got to be. So I don't really overly think exit for 20 years time. I appreciate I'd like to one day, but also I do really like doing the job as financial planner. So maybe exit just looks like, as it does with a lot of our clients, it's some kind of phase. You gradually start working a bit less. Maybe in the end, you're looking after your, not necessarily best, but your favorite kind of 10, 20, 25 clients you just really enjoy spending time with and add lots of value to. And you look after those for a period of time. I need to get a little bit closer to that point in time before I decide whether that was a crazy idea and actually I just want to go off to a beach somewhere and stay there for the rest of my life. But yeah, I've got a while to make those decisions, I think.
Incredible. So how do you invest your own retirement portfolios? Let's get into Tim Horrocks' portfolio. What does that look like today?
I think a lot of it is which is classically kind of what clients would say, and you really tell them off. It's classically, that entrepreneurial kind of investment in the business. Really, that's what I've been doing since I was 28, is trying to grow something with value for that long-term income flow. So a lot of my investment has always been back in the business, growing it, investing in things like the marketing, the SEO, which comparatively we've spent tons of money on doing that for a relatively, or what was a relatively small firm. But it's about that long-term approach.
But you do have a pension fund, don't you?
Of course, Abraham. Of course, Abraham. Of course, Abraham. Of course.
What's in it? Take us inside it.
Yeah, low costs, evidence-based, bit of factor tilts, classic kind of what Abraham Okunsenye would put together as an investment portfolio, and equity. There wouldn't be much in the way of any kind of fixed income in there, because I understand what happens in markets and leave things the hell alone for a long period of time, and equity is the way to go. Good.
So it's sort of same things that you'd recommend for clients in that stage of life.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we start to wrap this up, a couple more questions for you. What's your biggest financial mistake as a financial planner? Well, in life, really.
Probably the least favorite question there. I'd probably say, being in my 20s and in the noughties and coming out of university was the real kind of time of easy credit availability. You could just go and have a good time and do some holidays. And that was probably the biggest mistake, really, was kind of leaving university and thinking, oh, this is good, and just carry on partying a bit and spending the earnings before the earnings were there. So that was, in retrospect, probably not the most sensible idea. But then you're only in your 20s once. You can continue to pay the price for a period of time.
Incredible stuff. Incredible. No, I made similar, if not worse, mistakes, and I didn't get out of it until in my 30s. So really dug myself into a terrible hole in terms of debt, and had to crawl myself back in. I doubt yours was as worse as mine. Mine was really bad. But hey, here we are.
Well, you got to make mistakes to learn from things, haven't you?
Absolutely. No, it's been incredibly fascinating and valuable talking to you, hearing your journey and what you're building. Thank you very much, Tim, for your time and your wisdom. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
So that's it on Retirementals today. I hope that's been incredibly useful and valuable for you. Thank you for listening. Until next time, goodbye. I'll be remiss if I don't thank my incredible team who worked very hard to put this program together, led by my producer, Hannah Dickinson. Thank you very much, guys. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Timeline App, the retirement planning software, and Betafolio, the high-tech, low-cost flat fee model portfolio manager. And to you, our listeners, thank you for your time. I hope you've had as much fun listening to the program as we have making it. You can find more about the show at retirementals.co.uk, and you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Abraham on Money. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.